you're saying about...
Go on, put it in. Say it. Speak.
Go on.
I'll just tag it on, go on.
So stiff neck.
Yeah.
And like anterior structures.
Yep. Cool.
So your GI tract, is it a similar thing?
It's
That if
the same.
something's kind of a bit stagnant, then there'd be a build-up of acid, and that can produce
more bacteria, more wind,
so
more
like
gas,
kind
more,
of pH
Yeah,
problems.
pH
so candio.
Yeah, there you go.
Can't say the word.
Yeah, thrush, all sorts of things. Yeah, it's exactly the same.
And the same in the mouth.
Same,
So oral
it's all
thrush,
geotract. But that's what the osteopaths were treating. And they realised the biggest system is the muscular system that can contribute towards this whole process, because we produce so much acid as a byproduct of metabolic activity, we have to clear it.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
More mobility of...
So basically, it's the more mobile you make the musculoskeletal system, the more clearance of waste products. The rest of the body is being affected. Because in relation to the musculoskeletal system, the organs are passive. In fact, the most active organ of the non-frame skeletal system would be the GI tract.
I feel I got diagnosed with Crohn's recently, and I've felt that ever since that diagnosis, because it's obviously got a lot worse since the reason I went and got it diagnosed is because my stomach had just got so much worse. Yeah, really bad. But I felt like my mind was a lot worse since I was in more pain and less. I'd move less because it hurts.
Don't
so
forget,
much
when you become aware of yourself thinking about something, that's the end of the activity of thinking.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because the thing has to be intensifying for you to think about something. So we always think of thinking as about the thing we're thinking about, not the activity of thinking that leads to the thing we're thinking about. So we can never really say we're thinking. We can only say we've thought.
Yeah.
It's the end. It's past. If I said to you, think of a pink elephant. Okay. The act of me saying that, by the time you think about the pink elephant, that's the end.
Yeah, because you've thought about it and it's there.
So we know that, and thinking is just thinking is an intensity of an intensifying of normal activity. You're bringing activity into focus. It's not a case of how can I say? You're bringing experience into. You're bringing meaning into focus. If I say think of a black cat, you know what a black cat looks like. You've seen them. So all you do is you think about a black cat, which means you're bringing intensity into focus.
Yeah.
A bit like saying catch the ball. You bring your ability to catch the ball into focus. It's not a case of thinking in your head. It's too late. It's the process. So the whole body is always sort of a series of intensifications and relaxations. So think of a cat as just an intensification in a direction of feeling. We actually confuse thinking with feeling. It's actually feeling we're doing, not thinking.
Okay.
Because you're always aware of how you feel.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're putting language to feeling, which makes you think that's the thing you're thinking about. So you let's say, think of a leopard, something you haven't physically touched.
Yeah.
But you feel thinking. You can't think as a phenomenon. You can't think in your head. You can't think as an abstract activity. But by the very nature of using the word abstract, it becomes a nonsense. Because you're whole. There's nothing about you that's abstract at all. Does that make sense? You're a whole all the time. I can think of a silly question. You're a whole all the time. So basically, you're thinking through language. You're not thinking with language.
Okay.
You're languaging. It's an activity. See, what Aristotle was doing was, the reason why we don't use Aristotle anymore, we use Plato, is because Aristotle thought dynamically. So Aristotle would probably say, you don't talk, you're talking.
Yeah.
Think of it as an active process, not a passive process. So you're thoughting, not thinking.
Yeah, that makes sense. It feels like we're always looking at the end product. So someone's got a cold. Well, about like the process of getting a cold.
Is the cold?
Yeah. Because once it's done, it's done. You made a cake, but the making of a cake
is where you get your experience from, not the cake made.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, exactly. And that is the problem with science. Now thinking about it, was that that's the way it was. And I had a chemistry teacher actually. He told me I was rubbish. He said I wouldn't pass because he'd calculated mathematically what the likelihood that I would pass. Well, I passed. I'm here. Didn't I? And the first person I told was him. I said, look, I passed. And he couldn't believe it because he couldn't mathematically and scientifically calculate it according to all his
You know what? Why maths is so bad? There was a philosopher called Ludwig Wittgenstein, active in the 1920s, 1930s, and he was one of the greatest mathematicians of modern times. He invented the jet engine, and he was an engineer. And eventually he realised that actually maths was a load of nonsense, and that mathematics was not just a re-representation of personal experience in this quantifiable unity packages.
Yeah.
The maths itself doesn't exist. He said that maths is the only place that maths exists is in the doing of mathematics.
Okay. Yeah. So because you're doing it.
Same principles. Math. Yeah.
But there is
exactly the same. But there's no math. There's no end product. The end product is gone. It's too late.
Yeah.
The activity of mathematicizing something is in the doing of the mathematics. He said, and he was a great mathematician, a really good mathematician. He said, maths is useful, but don't mathematicize something organic because you're killing it. Yeah. You're allowing mathematics to give you qualities of the experience that are actually abstract qualities that you can relate mathematics to, like quantity, size, speed again. So to get a horse to run over 1 kilometre, if you get the horse to get speed, for example, horse can run. You can mark out 1 kilometre, make a horse run between the two, or start before then, just track its time. If you do it again, you get a different time. If you do it again, you get a different time. If you do it again, you get a different time. So basically, it's the plus or minus process of the activity, the differences between the activities that is the horse. Does that make sense? If your horse runs I don't know, let's say a kilometre in, let's give a unit of 6, okay, and it runs it again in that 6.4, it runs again that's 5.3. All the differences between those numbers is the horse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
It's the variability that is expressiveness of horsiness.
Yeah, because you might be really tired that day, might be a bit hot.
Yeah, and same with science.
That's him.
Same as doing science. There's those variabilities that we just knock out because because we want things to be stable. And that stability is a complete idol.
That's what, you just always get anomalies and you have to exclude it. But actually, that's what happened at that time. It's not.
Exactly. To be inclusive of the process.
Yeah, something had gone wrong there in the doing, and it's not. You know, it could have been. I don't know, the person.
You're never going to put it right if you're not attentive to the doing that went wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
In the act of doing something. Because you also, we see the end product as being wrong. So we search the process of doing it, which is the way to do it.
Yeah.
Not look at the end product, try and correct the end product again. Look at the only way you can experience, the only way you can accelerate your experience is to be aware of yourself experiencing, not the experienced. It's our language structure that's awkward. So, any questions? But it's like that little boy with his bowel problem and his dodgy leg.
Yeah.
I didn't link the two together. As far as I'm concerned, they are the same phenomenon. A tight ascending left intestine relates the same nerve supply to power to the lower limb and the spinal cord, to the ganglia. But what we tend to do is isolate them as two separate phenomena.
Yeah.
I mean, the bowel is a massive muscle. In fact, the bowel is who we are, not our brains. So like a friend of mine said, if you'd like any superpower, it would be to control people's bowels. That was the superpower he'd choose to have.
But you think there's a lot of control, like your body that is controlled almost by your bowel. I mean, I don't know, you think you're very aware of it. It's something you're very.
Yeah, because the bowel came first.
Yeah.
You have to exchange with the world as an organism before you start building limbs, before you start building a brain. The bowel's got more nerves in it. I mean, if you're worried about something, you don't say I'm worried and put your hand on your head. You put your hand on your stomach.
That's why people get ulcers, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the first place it sort of goes.
Exactly. So the bowel drives the brain. It's not the way around. So many years ago, I was at a conference and they were doing this fMRI scanning of people's brains, doing mathematical things, showing all this blood flow. They look at ourselves thinking. I go, for God's sake. And somebody in the audience said, "Well, didn't you do the same for the bowel?" Because if you say blood flow changes through the bowel, as someone's doing maths, That's where the reality is.
People blush and their stomach flushes red as well.
Exactly. Vasomotor response. The brain doesn't change. It's not the brain that's doing it. We think in the world, don't think in our heads. Our movement is our thinking. But our movement, we're just not aware of our movements. We're only aware of what we thought. Because 99% of communication is non-verbal. Okay, so our body language is our thinking. So if someone I don't know, it's happened in the past where I wanted to go somewhere and someone says to me, "You want to go somewhere, don't you? You don't want to be here, do you?" You just tell by body language.
Yeah.
It's the body that does the thinking.
Definitely.
It's our awareness of thinking that we think is the thinking. That's too late. Same with the patient. Try this experiment, right?
Okay.
With the patient. Next time you palpate the patient or soft tissue them, think of something. Even if it's something common, anything like this. I see the patient starts talking about it. Start thinking about, I know, something's common, holidays, right? So next time you palpate a patient today, the next couple of weeks, think about holidays while you're doing it. And patients go, "You going on holiday?" Has that ever happened to you?
No.
Do it on purpose,
Yeah.
and you'll see it happens every single time without fail. Because you're not separate from the patient. You're in the world together. Thinking is movement.
Give that one a go.
Okay, that's actually, yeah.
Try it. Or think of something common. I mean, the chances are.
People think that's nuts.
But it happens all the time to me. It happens all the time. Because I'm not seeing myself separate from the patient. First thing you do is think of yourself not being separate from the patient, right? So when you're doing a soft tissue technique or doing traction, feel what you're thinking. And see if the patient comes up with it and says, "Any holidays this year?" It's like that sort of thing. It happens all the time.
Okay.
But osteopathic it happens all the time. But let's just ignore it because it's just coincidence. So no, thinking is movement. And if we can think through movement, we're far better at palpating, far better at diagnosing because we see more clearly.
Yeah.
Right, break time.